So, Sebastian, welcome to the show again.
Thank you, Mate.
Unfortunately, not shaking hands or not personally, but
No, I mean, but we are getting used to this. This is normal now. This is
yeah,
kind
right.
of okay.
Yeah. When did we do the first podcast? It was like a year ago, right? Or maybe
It
a
was
bit.
a year ago because I just arrived from my advanced sommelier exam, and I
Mm-hmm.
did that on October last year. So it was like a year ago, yeah.
Okay,
And
nice.
you've
So,
developed so much in 1 year, man. You have video podcast and you do all the stuff. So congrats, by the way.
thanks. But as you said, you have to adapt. So,
Yeah.
I just try to do my best. But thanks, you. But you also, I read your recent articles, and I think you also have a you received an award for your article this year, right? Can you tell a little bit
This
about that?
this year, yeah, this year I competed again in this wine writing contest, which I did also last year,
Mm-hmm.
and this year I participated in two categories. One about Tokai and
Okay.
one about Cabernet Franc.
Mm-hmm.
I passed for the finalist in the Tokai, and I didn't pass for the finalist in the Cabernet Franc. But I think that my Cabernet Franc article is also very nice. But anyways, and then I managed to win the Tokai category. So we got this great trip to Viline, but first to Buk, so to Miskolc. We had a
Mm-hmm.
great dinner with the Galai winery, which I admire a lot, and I like Roland a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He would be on you. He should be on your podcast. He's very nice, Roland Borbe from Galai. He's super
Roland
cool.
Barbe.
His wines are very unique, and we had there, and then we went to Tokai. We had this lovely kind of picnic in the Patricius winery
Mm-hmm.
next to the. You could see the Tokai Hill. It was truly beautiful. And then we went to Villa to Sexart, so it was really a treat. So yeah, I won that one as well. Yeah.
Perfect. Congratulations. And you
Let's
speak
start drinking.
Hungarian. Yeah, exactly. Plus, cheers.
So I haven't opened this just to show you guys that this is a half a bottle, so you can see the size. It's quite
It's
small.
like a beer.
It's like a beer. Yeah. This is a personal size. So nobody's fighting against who had more champagne from the bottle. Everybody has their own. So
Okay.
I'm gonna pop it open. I hope it's on. It was on my on my backpack, shaking, but it's fine. And this is traditional method sparkling, but I will discuss it later. Look at that. Looks like a beer.
Nice, nice.
What are you having, Mate?
I'm actually having a Blaufränkisch from Rust, from Burgenland.
Love your glass, man. Love
It
your glass.
it's
What
the
is that?
same.
Starco?
No, but it almost. It has the same glass. It's the same
Sure.
manufacturing.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not that light, not as a Salto, but it's sexy and nice. So cheers.
Salud. Mm, nice. This is good. Interesting.
Okay, so tell me what's in your glass.
So in my glass, I have this Sendonat winery. It's called 5 bar because it
Mm.
has 5 bars of pressure.
Mm.
Geeky question for all the wine geeks, wine nerds. Mate, you are a wine nerd. What famous sparkling wine has 5 bars of pressure?
Some with usually a little bit of sweetness, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but there's one style
Yeah.
that is known for having 5 bars, and they say it's 100%. No, I'm not. It's not. It's Blanc de Blanc. It's Italian
Mm-hmm.
and
Northern Italian, right?
Northern Italian. Yeah, and it's a subcategory of the variety of the style of the appellation. Do you know which one is?
Please reveal your secret.
Franciacorta Satin.
Mm.
Satin Franciacorta is known for having 5 bars. Anyway, it's so this is from the Sendonat winery from your hometown area, Balaton. But this is Chopak. I think that the grapes come from Tihany.
Okay.
I think it's Olas Riesling Furmint. It is not a pet nut, although it looks like a pet nut, because a pet nut, as you guys know, and as Mate, you know this very well, it's first fermentation, and before the first fermentation, they basically bottle the fermenting must, and it finishes the fermentation in the bottle. This is a traditional method sparkling wine, so it means they started from a base wine, from a wine that was already done. They bottled that, and then they added yeast and sugar. The difference is that with a sparkling wine is that this is not filtered or disgorged, so it has all the lees, and they only produced it in half a bottle size because they did this in their own premises in Chopak, and they do not have the technology for riddling and all of that stuff. And they also wanted to have a small bottle size because they had a lot of customers who wanted to have sparkling wine for the restaurant or something that it was half bottle. So this is a new wine for us in the shop, in the tasting table. You can buy it in the tasting table. Guess how much is this in forints? Half a bottle.
3,000?
2,800. Yes, very good. And which is $10 or less. So it's a great value. And yeah, I mean, if you're in a restaurant, even by yourself or with two, and I mean, I think it's good. But they recommend to have this, let's say, somehow quickly. So this is not a good wine for by the glass, because it will get wild because of the yeast there. So it will get
funky.
But yeah, funky. Yeah.
And what would you have with it, like as a first meal? Because I also have my list already for the Christmas wines, and I also have a Brut Natur, like traditional method, but it's also. I will listen to you first.
Great. So I would have this with anything. I mean, this wine is super versatile. This one in particular, because even though it says it's Brut Natur, it has this surprising creamy, almost like a fuller-bodied mouthfeel. I believe from all the leaves that are there in the glass, and it doesn't feel dry, like bone dry Brut Natur. It feels like a Brut almost. So it feels kind of sugary, not sugary, like sweet, not sweet, but with some sweetness, and great texture. This could be good with, for example, if some people like to have like baked chicken or whatever, or whole duck or turkey, or even with the starters, if you want to have some cheeses or something before. Maybe a steak or something like that won't be good with this, but even like every type of salad, like Russian salad or French salad or whatever it's called, potato salad with mayonnaise, which is something very common in Colombia. This would be very good because it has that roundness, that richness, and bubbles are super festive. Bubbles are good. You won't be far from happiness if you bring a bottle of bubbly.
True.
But if you bring a bottle of heavy red, it probably won't fit. So this is, I think, a very versatile wine. This in particular, is the second time I'm having this, so I'm not an expert on this wine, but I think it's good. If you don't like it, it's not a problem because it's only half a bottle, so you can drink this anyway. So.
And is it completely dry or?
Well, they say it's Brut Natur, and if you think about it, it's unfiltered, so all the sugar was transformed by the yeast completely because the yeast is here. So it has no sugar. They say they don't say anything weird here, but I think that the base wine was fermented in stone vessels, so like a stone pot. So it's not concrete; it's stone, and they have that for the furmint. They like to ferment their furmint in this winery. So yeah.
Yeah, these Hungarians are getting crazy over there too.
Yeah,
With
it
this, with
smells a little bit
this,
like popcorn, and like
huh?
this yeasty kind
Uh-huh.
of corn. It's nice. It's weird. And if somebody likes beer a lot and they want to change into wines, I think
Yeah.
something like this could be nice.
Because I have, Raumland, this producer from Rheinhessen. It's very typical, especially in Germany, in gastronomy. And I have a Blanc de Noir, so Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier,
Okay.
2013 one, and it was partially fermented in barriques.
Wow.
And
So it's like Claudia Monet, like super rich.
yeah, exactly. And like it had, I think, 24 months of lease aging, or maybe more. And I haven't tasted this vintage yet because that's a 2013 one. I tasted a 2014, but it has all the richness what I like. So it has all the spiciness, the brioche notes, but also from the Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier, really this kind of fruitiness. So I really like I think a perfect starter. It's also Brut Natur, but it had always had the complexity and not doesn't dry your mouth out, but still had this kind of perlage, which
Okay.
it's I think a good
Makes you
starter.
hungry. A bubbly should make you hungry. Should be a nice starting point. So if you start with a cheap, horrible sparkling, then your whole night is not starting great. You should start. I'm not saying you should start with Krug or Salon or
Yeah,
something like it's
yeah.
going to break the bank, but you should absolutely. And there are some tips that I can give you for good sparkling wines. If you are into the value, if you don't want to spend too much, because if you want to spend a lot, I have also another advice. But if you don't want to spend, let's say, more than $25 euros on your sparkling wine, then avoid champagne. Number one, avoid champagne, because by that price point you can get basic, like, brut non-vintage from a big house, and well, that is delicious as well. That can be very good, but you won't get uniqueness from it. So I would go for one of the wines that I like a lot, which is Cava from Spain, which is what I am having a Cava for Christmas. Because Cava can give you outstanding value for crazy aging and things that, if coming from Champagne, would be super expensive. Like, I don't know, a few years, I mean, 3, 4, 5 years on the lease, vintage, uh, single vineyard, and you're paying like $30. And if it's Champagne, you're going to pay $300 for that. So Cava, I think, gives outstanding value. And Cava is, I think, if you want to have something bone dry, like Brut Natur or Extra Brut, something very dry, I would go for, but something very dry, but not sour, but overly acidic. Because we wine lovers, so you and me, we are acid freaks. We love acidity. We love when the wines, make us like do faces. We love crisp, but most of the people don't like that harsh acidity. I think it's an acquired taste. So in Cava, you can get delicious dryness, but with enough ripeness, if you know what I mean, because that is Mediterranean. It's not Champagne climate. Like, it's not harsh, cold, continental. It's Mediterranean climate. So no matter if they harvest very early, they will always get nice balance. So acidity won't be as high as in Champagne Brut Natur. So I think Cava is great. I am very curious of your German Brut Natur. That is like acid freaks wine, I think.
Yeah, me too. It's I think more than 7.5 grams this vintage, and also I think with the lees
Acidity.
aging, yeah, acidity, and the lees aging can really help with the elevated acidity because it gives like a certain richness, and also I think it would be go well with some saltiness and maybe some salty cheeses also, and also with some crackers, you know.
So
So
what are you having for Christmas? And let me guess your wines, okay? I will try to guess the styles. What are you guys eating?
yeah, I actually only know the wine, so the
Uh,
eating I
you
expect from
don't
you.
care. Is like pizza to go, whatever, with champagne and whatever.
Yeah, pizza to go. Nah.
Pizza to go for Christmas.
So deep. We don't go so deep. So, but no, I mean, yeah, the sparkling. We have the sparkling already, and actually we
Okay.
have two whites, three reds.
One is Riesling for sure.
Nice
Of
guess.
course, of course. One is Riesling because where you are and because, well, why
Yeah,
not, right?
right. And that is also, I think if we are talking about Riesling, that's a pretty versatile uh,
Oh
food
yeah,
pairer and really a
oh
fruit
yeah.
friendly wine also because of the acidity what you said and also because it has aromatic. It's a very complex white wine. So
But you are not having a Mosel, right? You are having
no,
like a Nahe or a Pfalz or a Rheingau. What are you having?
exactly. Now I also did a podcast with this woman actually. It's a deal wine.
Okay.
You know her, or have
Mm,
you?
I think I've seen their wines, yeah, but
It's
I think I
a
haven't tasted them.
it's a Premier Cru Erste Lage Hölle
Okay.
2018 one, and I actually think that Na is sometimes underestimated with these wines because most of us should think about Mosel or Rheingau, right? And I think now it has really excellent terroirs and very versatile terroirs actually.
I've
And
heard that northern Nahe, so
mhm,
the part that is closest to Rheingau,
yeah,
can be a very good option for Rheingau lovers on with a budget, like
I
with
think
a
so too. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and a lot of exposures and very like a very versatile soil as well. So
Okay.
beautiful.
And your second wine must be an oaky one. So
Okay,
I don't want to say Chardonnay, but probably something Hungarian, uh,
or probably something German.
German oaky. If it's
Mm,
German oaky white,
but not
Weiss.
really okay. But not really okay. I give you a hint. I wanted something with a bit lower acidity and maybe also a bit neutral. And also my girlfriend is vegetarian, so also go well with scissored vegetables.
Weissburgunder or Silvaner?
Silvaner, exactly. Yeah,
Silvaner. Okay,
yeah,
from Franken.
exactly. Zenthof. Yeah, it was
Is
all.
in a
It,
box buta or whatever it's called. Box buta, this shape bottle.
no,
No,
it's a Riesling bottles.
Riesling bottles. Come
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
But is it from Franken?
Yeah, it is. It's Zenthof. It's also very old wines. It's over 50-year-old wines, and it was only in footers, so and also in bigger barrels. But
Okay,
it's
Silvaner.
nice. It's slightly
So
oxidative, but it's nice.
that can be very good with something vegetable based,
Mm-hmm.
like yeah, any kind of salads, or if you're having a soup,
True.
like a vegetable soup, cream soup of whatever, zucchini or whatever kind of vegetable can go very well with that.
Yeah.
Those wines are not so charming, so when you try them alone, can be a little bit restrained, but with food, even with fried food, so if you have like fried tempura vegetables, or with even fish or uh, Japanese or something like that, can be very nice. Soy sauce they can even handle soy sauce, which is
Mm.
very tricky,
Mm.
but yeah.
Also some umami, I think it, but also soy sauce and also mushrooms sometimes have. I think it's very difficult to find a good wine for that.
Yeah, Yeah.
So
But I mean, because our theme today, it's Christmas pairing, right? Wine pairing.
yeah.
So I think Silvana, if you're going to a party, or if you're going to your Christmas reunion, Silvana is not a great choice unless you know exactly what the pairing is, unless you
Mm.
know you're having vegetable based dishes. But if you, let's say I invite you to my home and I say, don't worry about anything, bring a bottle, but you don't know anything what I'm cooking. Uh, the easy, let's say, approach is sparkling wine. Sparkling wine will always be great. The other one would be like a texture white without too much oak, so not oaky white, like crazy oaky white's not, but some wine with some nice texture. Maybe some, even orange wine can be very versatile. So if you want to surprise everybody, bring an orange wine. Orange wine can be good with grilled grilled meats, grilled vegetables, with even horseradish, or things that people enjoy during Christmas that are not so food friendly. Orange wines have, I think, a bigger spectrum of pairings. So that can, and that will surprise everybody. That will be a topic. If you have a very boring company, then you can always talk about orange wines. If you have, you try orange wines, and yeah, will be, I think, could be nice as well.
Yeah, and also I think if you bring a bottle of wine to the for the others, it's always good to have a story, not like, okay, it was on discount in the next supermarket. So
Yeah, that's what I found in the 24-hour store next to your home.
yeah, and found in the corner half opened. And
Yeah,
do you, because I think it's also useful to talk about why do you choose certain wines for certain dishes, because I think, for example, as you mentioned, the sparkling wine, or especially traditional method sparkling, it's always maybe more versatile than a Silvaner. But let's talk about maybe why, and because you are also always a cook. So what are you considering when you do pairings?
that is great. I mean, for a long time, uh, I I worked for a couple of years as a culinary instructor. I taught people how to cook, and also I taught people about wines. And when I was teaching um, aspiring chefs or aspiring cooks about wine pairing, it's always nice to see that from a food perspective. So basically, when you think about it, the food that you eat will taste the same regardless of the wine you are drinking. So food doesn't change. So your soup will taste like your soup, and your steak will taste like your steak, but the wine you are tasting will change. So the wine changes always with whatever you are drinking. What we want to have is for that change to be a good one. So wine is going to change. That's a given. Okay, let's put that in the table. Wine will taste differently. Now, will that different flavor, that new flavor you are having by mixing food and wine, will be enjoyable? That is what we want. We don't want to ruin your dish. If you cooked all day, man, you've been cooking that meat, you marinated it for 3 days, you did a crust, you baked it, then you whatever, and then you pair the wrong wine, it's going to make your meal look worse than it is, because the overall experience is not going to be great though.
Mm.
So a few things to think about. One is basically sweetness level. That is essential. So it doesn't mean that all wine pairings need to be dry wines, but most of them are dry. So uh, there are very few examples of main dishes. I'm thinking main and entrees. Desserts are sweet wine. So there is no dessert that benefits from a dry wine. I don't know a good dry wine dessert pairing. So it's easier if you think about sweet dishes with sweet wines. But let's talk about savory dishes. Um, there are very few examples of savory dishes that go well with sweet wines. Those exist, are delicious, but they are very specific. So don't be too creative with sweet wines and savory dishes. You don't want to drink an asu with your goulash lavash. It's not gonna, or with your goulash soup, it's not gonna make it good. But if you have a terrine with asu, it's gonna be delicious. Or if you have foie gras, or if you have some blue cheese, or let's say camembert cheese wrapped in bacon with a sweet fruit, red fruit sauce, with a lambrusco or with bracchetto d'acchi, with a wine that has some sweetness, it's going to be delicious because there's some sweetness in the dish. But if your dish has zero sweetness, if your dish is pure fat, meat, bacon, pasta, tomato, don't put sweet. So go for dry wine. Only choose sweet wines when your dish has something sweet. So if you're having, for example, let's say cooked or baked pork with a fruit-based sauce, with a sauce made out of whatever, blackberries or whatever, any fruit, then you can think about semi-dry, semi-sweet wines. Like I was actually thinking today that in Colombia, I'm from Colombia, um, so it's a quite common thing to have, for example, like a homemade ham made out of pork with sweet sauce. Could be like plum sauce, or it could be red fruit or wild fruit sauce, or it could be yellow fruit sauce. So when you have that, I was browsing around this webpage and I found this Bracchetto d'Acqui, which is this wine from Piedmont, made with Bracchetto variety and in the region of Acqui, and it's a sparkling red that has some sweetness. It's not a sweet wine, but has some sweetness. And I thought, well, the pork, like grilled pork, is not a flavorful, like it's not full of, it's full of texture and full of fat and full of salt, delicious. But it's not a lot of intensity of flavor. It's more fat, and then you add this fruit-based sauce. So actually, that semi-dry, semi-sweet red will be a good pairing for that. But that's a very specific. I mean, that if you know you're eating that, then bring that to the party. But if you don't know what you are bringing, what you are eating, then go for a dry wine. Go for a dry wine without any extremes. So another thing that is very interesting is that extremes, for example, high acid, high tannin, high alcohol, will change dramatically, will change as high as they are. For example, high acidity, if you pair that with a high acidic dish like ceviche or I mean, I don't know, something with like oysters with lemon, will be delicious. But if your dish has zero acidity, it's a stew, then it's gonna drop that much. It's gonna be that much different. So wines with extremes are not versatile. So if you have a high acid, crazy high acid, I have this blind tasting group with a few friends, and last week we tasted blind this white wine with this crazy acidity. The acidity was, I mean, Mate, it was crazy. It was high as fuck. It was high, like it was crazy high. It had aromas of kind of grated apple, like bruised apple. And then this acidity was like crazy. Now, that is not a wine for bringing to your party, because it's gonna change that dramatically with the food. So as dramatic as the acidity is, acidity is, that much dramatic will the change be. And that was Vouvray sec. So acidic, man. Acidity was higher than a Riesling. It was crazy. It was a Domaine Huet Vouvray sec 19. What an acidity. If you are having like seafood, like um, uh, oiled fried seafood, it's going to be delicious. But if you're not having that, it's going to be is not gonna fit, because those are wines that have a very strong personality, and if they don't like what they are paired with, they're gonna let you know they don't like it. So you want wines that are easygoing, somehow balanced, somehow moderated in everything. That's my point.
Oh, perfect. And that's what I call actually like a Monday morning wine, because then somehow
wakes you up.
it wakes you up, exactly. And if we're talking about acidity, like a really acidic wine, it's not like an overly acidic wine, but you mentioned, but with high acidity, like a Riesling, Sauvignon Blanc, this kind of really zingy,
Furni.
electric, yeah, kind of wines. What would you pair with them, or what would go well?
Well, acidity likes acidity, and in the meantime, I'm pairing myself these delicious stuffs. It's almost gone. This is how small this is. So acidity, it's a very interesting thing. So acidity in food makes wines feel less acidic. So if you're having a very acidic dish, for example, you're having a white fish cooked in lemon, so ceviche. That dish is high in acidity, very high in acidity. That dish will make your super crazy high acidic wine feel softer, gentler, smoother, easier drinking. So that's good, because, for example, this Vouvray that I was mentioned, that by itself is so crazy acidic, it will be much more gentle and soft. Even though it sounds weird, because you think acidity is gonna make me cry of sourness, but it's not. Actually, that's super interesting, because acidity in food softens acidity in wine. So that means if you have a low acidity wine with that dish, the wine is going to feel boneless. It's going to feel with no acidity. And we all know that a wine without acidity is like a baby without bones, only fat, only softness. There's no structure, there's nothing. So if you're having Sauvignon Blanc, you're having Riesling, you're having Furmin, you're having Albarino, you're having all those, you have to have acidity. That could be fish with some squeezed lemon juice on the top. But be careful, because acidity can always easily be managed in kitchens by adding vinegar. So if you have a salad, now vinegar is a very tricky food. Wine doesn't like vinegar. Wine and vinegar are not good. There's only one wine in the world which can stand olives, can stand anchovies, can stand vinegary stuff, and that is what you have behind you, Vinos de Jerez, sherry. Pinot sherry can handle that, because sherry has seen all the oxygen in it. Sherry is beyond good and bad. Sherry is like another thing. Sherry is like I don't know what it is, but it's another thing. But so vinegar will make your wine feel vinegary, and your wine, when it feels vinegary, it feels horrible. So vinegar-based dishes are very tricky. So if you are cooking for a wine meal, try to use citrus instead of vinegar. So use any citrus. It doesn't have to be lemon or lime. It can be tangerine, it can be grapefruit, it can be whatever, but use citrus instead of vinegar. And if you use vinegar, be kind of gentle with it. And I mean, yeah, don't be crazy vinegary, heavy vinegar salad, because that is not going to pair good with anything. And so that's going to be impossible to pair. But if you have, for example, balsamic vinegar, the best wine for balsamic vinegar, I think, is Sangiovese. I think it's an Italian, because that actually looks, when you think about tomatoes with balsamic vinegar and olive oil, and maybe some pasta or whatever meat, it just the Sangiovese grape is there, like Chianti or Vino Nobile or what. It's like
What
there.
grows together go together. It's the old saying, but it's somehow true, right?
Absolutely. So that to answer your question, for those varieties, I would have something like, for example, breaded shrimps with an alioli or a mayonnaise based sauce with cilantro or whatever. Make sure to even either add the juice of a lime or a lemon, or grate the zest of the lemon or the lime on top of the fish. And that will make your pairing so much better. So if you want to have a great Sauvignon Blanc, you have this great Sauvignon Blanc that you want to have. Then go for a white fish, grill it, and then when it's done, just zest some lime on top of the fish, a few drops of lime next to potato puree, some salad, and it will be great. It will be very good. So yeah.
Super. And the other tricky thing I think is fat, because I think fat needs at least tannins, or also sometimes also proteins, but fat needs really tannins, and maybe astringency also needs some fat in the wine. I think also astringency in red wine. So how would you maybe compare certain red wines? You already mentioned Chianti, but maybe if you go further in Italy, like Barolo, or really heavy stuff, like with higher tannins, but also with higher acidity, and also maybe wines which are maybe more fruitier, because I think like fruitier wines in general need some fruity component at least on the plate, right? Or some, yeah, exactly, some fruity component, but also red wines can be really versatile. So you can have a, I don't know, a Gamay from Beaujolais, or a Beaujolais Neveu even, or you can have a, I don't know, 10 years of Barolo. But so
yeah.
Also red wine pairs with red meat, it's also like a silly argument, because what kind of red meat and what kind of red wine? So
yeah,
what
exactly.
are maybe the key points there?
Red wines, if you don't like white wines and you want to have a red, because you are a red wine guy, as you said, overly fruity wines. So I think Beaujolais Nouveau is the worst pairing ever. There's no wine, there's no food that is not like bubble gum. Like it's Beaujolais Nouveau, overly aromatic grapes like Irshai Oliver in Hungary, or like Muscat. Those wines are very hard to pair, because those wines have no food friendliness. They are only charming. They are only beautiful, but they are dumb, to put it in a way. They don't have any depth. They don't have any complexity. Those are just like superficial deliciousness. And those wines for food are not good. The wines that are not delicious by itself, those are usually good with food, as we mentioned, Silvaner, or as we mentioned, Euphork in Hungary, or something like Albarino, but Albarino is delicious anyhow. But something like, for example, Hunter Valley Semillon, which is I think that's a very food-friendly wine. That is a very good, because it's not overly aromatic. For example, New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc is very tricky. People love it, but when you want to pair that, it has to be white fish, or it has to be salad, or you're done. So there's no more. I mean, unless it's an oaky version. So for red wines, I love, for example, grilled salmon with a lighter red. So if you are in the place in the world where Mate and I are, like Central Europe, or like Eastern, Central, whatever Europe, we have a lot of red wines like that. So a lot of them, Cadarca, or lighter Pinot Noirs, or Cape Francoche, San Laurent, Zweigelt. Those are delicious wines that can be extraordinary, much better than white wine with oily fish. So salmon, or tuna, or whatever, mackerel, whatever you like that is oily fish, can be outstanding with any grilled, slightly charcoaled white meats. So even a chicken, or a turkey, or a duck with crispy skin, or that with light reds would be delicious. Pastas with a medium red. So medium red, I think pastas with tomato-based sauce with anything else. So vegetables or meats can be very good with medium reds, like Sangiovese, or Merlot, or what else? Like a more serious, quote unquote, Pinot Noir, or things like that can be very good with that. And unless you're having steak, unless you know that the main dish is a T-bone or a sirloin. If you know that that's the main dish, go for a huge red. But I would recommend usually go for the old world. Try to go for Europe. Europe makes food-friendlier wines than the New World. There is nothing wrong with New World wines. Don't get me wrong. I like a lot Australian wines. I like whatever American, North American, Argentine. I love Argentinian wines, but they're usually fruit forward. And as we mentioned, fruit. If it's only fruity, then it's kind of empty. There's not much depth. But if you go, for example, Rioja is a great choice for a dinner wine. Like Rioja Reserva, Rioja is very good. Chianti is also very good. Tuscany is excellent. Sicily, if you like riper type of wines, Sicily is great value and can give you riper whites with nice acidity because they have Frappato and they have Nelero Mascarese, which are these grapes that have great acidity. So, but if you like riper, kind of jammier, richer fruit, and yeah, like, well, France is you can go Bordeaux, but I mean Bordeaux, it's a good food wine. It's very good food wine. Bordeaux is very good food wine as well. So, yeah, if you go for the overly jammy Zinfandel, overly ripe Shiraz from Australia, then it's going to be very tricky. So it's going to be, it's not going to be very versatile. So I would go for Old World.
And I think it's also important to decide whether you go for harmony or contradiction in the dish, right? So if you have like, I don't know, fatty sauces like, I don't know, hollandaise or bechamel or something like this, like oak Pinot Gris or Viognier or Chardonnay would go well, maybe, like really oaky wines. But you can also go completely to the other direction. So maybe, I don't know, Pouilly-Fumé or something electrifying like a German Riesling, which cuts through the fat. So you can either decide whether you complement the dish or somehow you go with maybe a brave choice, but
with the
somehow,
opposite.
Yeah, try, right? So what are maybe some other like key rules for that? I mean, it's also, I think it's a common saying that acidity cuts through the fat, but maybe which are some common, mistakes, but also really truth behind these wine pairings?
That's a very good topic. I don't recommend, if you are not experienced with food pairings and if you haven't had that before, don't try to go with the weird opposite wine pairing because you can fail dramatically. And there are the opposite wine pairings, like for example, sweet wine with foie gras or sweet wine with blue cheese, which is the archetype, like the classic opposite wine pairing is salty, pungent blue cheese with deliciously, luxuriously sweet wine. Those together somehow work like magic. But there's a reason why they are so few, because that is very tricky pairing. It's very specific though. So imagine having blue cheese with Lambrusco. You know, tastes horrible, man, because Lambrusco is not sweet enough. It has not the things that balance the blue cheese. It has no body, no real creamy, oily texture. That is what balances blue cheese. So if you want to be overly unique, most of the time you will fail. So my advice is to go with acidity, goes with acidity, low tannins go with kind of lighter proteins, rich tannins go with rich proteins, and bitterness, avoid bitterness. So that is another thing we haven't mentioned, that bitterness in food like artichokes or olives or asparagus or arugula, things that are bitter will enhance the bitterness on your wine. It's bitterness and acidity are the opposite. Acidity in food lowers acidity sensation in wine, while bitterness in food enhances bitterness in wine because of bitter taste. we've developed as human beings, as animals, to bitter is like a red flag. If we are having something bitter, I don't know, a few thousand years ago in the forest, that is the way our body is telling us that is poison, man. Spit that. Don't eat that. So we are very sensitive to bitterness, because bitterness is usually something bad, right? So bitterness is not mitigated, is not softened by anything. So if you have arugula, if you have, again, asparagus, avoid high tannin and avoid so-called phenolic varieties. So white wines that have bitterness, like Welsh Riesling or Olas Riesling or Albarino or Pinot Gris or Gewürztraminer or Viognier, those grapes that have bitterness, avoid them, because they are gonna feel that much more bitter. And with spicy food, for example, if you like a lot of heat on your food, or if you're having Thai food, for example, or if you're having Mexican food or Hungarian food that has a lot of spice or heat, avoid high alcoholic wines, because the spice, the heat on the food will make the wine feel more alcoholic. And usually some light sweetness softens the alcohol. So go for a somehow slight residual sugar, low alcohol wine. That's why Riesling or Riesling Cabinet works so good with Thai food. Like they're like heaven. Or Gewürztraminer with Thai food or Mexican food, they are perfect, because the slight sweetness softens the heat sensation, and they have low alcohol, so the spice will make the alcohol feel higher, but since it's low alcohol, then it's gonna feel regular alcohol. But if you have spicy South Asian food with a full-bodied Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon, it's gonna feel like you're drinking tequila. It's gonna feel like it's burning through your throat. So that's another tip.
But also maybe if we were also talking about Italian sparkling, Moscato d'Asti would go well, I think, really well with lower alcohol, like a 7.
Yeah, but that is very, very fruity wine. Unless the spicy food has mango or something like fruit. Imagine this South Asian dish with coconut milk, mango, some spice, some shrimp, some pasta, and Moscato d'Asti. You are in heaven, man. It's delicious. But if it has no sweetness, if it has only spicy stuff, then the Moscato d'Asti will feel out of place, because it will be overly fruity. So you can go for a Riesling, or you can go for a whatever else.
Yeah, or Torrontés maybe. I'm actually rediscovering Torrontés now, or Muscat maybe.
Torrontés comes from northern Argentina, from Salta. And in Salta, they have the super famous and delicious empanadas salteñas. And empanada is this dough, small one, looks like a circle that you have folded in half, and it's filled with spicy meat. So it's beef with heat, with spices. So it's hot, and it has some herbs. It has some olives sometimes, or it has this kind of bell pepper thing. And that empanada with torrontés, it's a dream come true, because you have the heat from the empanada, which is a fast food. Empanada is not fancy stuff. It's delicious, but it's like soul warming, delicious, not fancy stuff. And then you have this torrontés, which is floral, soft. Usually torrontés has no residual sugar, so it's bone dry. But still, torrontés and empanada salteña, because the empanada has cilantro, has this coriander, which is super aromatic, and that would go well with torrontés. Yeah.
Super. And also, I think another misconception maybe that white wine could not go well with white meat or with meat. But I think with white meat, especially with poultry, so turkey, or even sometimes also with the gamey meats, but also it could pair really well. But also oaky whites, maybe with this kind of roasted flavors, could also go well with roasted lighter meat, like maybe roasted chicken or Like a zingy, a light-bodied wine could go well with salad or seafood. So it's really it's another thing that red wine cannot go well with white meat. It's like or cannot go well with fish. But can you tell us maybe, or do you have something in mind which maybe some red wine could go well with fishes, and in which circumstances?
Yeah, man, absolutely. As I mentioned, fatty fish are delicious with red wine, and even better than with white wine.
Mm.
And here in Hungary, we have this fisherman's soup, or halászlé, which is this red soup because it has a lot of paprika powder, and it's cooked with some river fish, and it's very rich, kind of thick, so it's not a broth, and that goes with kadarka, which is a red wine, a very light red wine, and that is the best pairing. Or so if you have oily fish or a rich fish based dish, like a bouillabaisse soup from southern France, that goes very well with rosé. Is also very nice. So rosé that is not overly fruity. Again, overly fruity wines not, but there are some unique rosés that have some oak aging. For example, I've had a few rosés that are not so charming during the summer because they have a lot of texture and they are not so fruit driven. But for example, Tavel rosés from France, or here in Hungary, I've had a few, for example, Schiller, which is this style between white and or rosé and red, that are not so fruit driven, but mostly textured wines, richer. Those are very good and very versatile with food. So that can be very good with every type of mayonnaise-based salads, with white fish, with oily fish, with duck, with chicken. So that is also a thing to go in mind. Go for texture, weird, oak-aged rosés if you can find them. Don't go for the youngest rosé ever, like Hungarians love the youngest, the most fresh rosé that is more fruity. That is not good with food. That is hard to pair. That is good with friends, patio, and summer. That is delicious for that. But for food, go for the wines that have less fruit aromas but more texture and balanced acidity. Those are usually better. Yeah.
And also, I think another important argument that we already mentioned, like maybe salad and also fish or meat, but we should also sometimes concentrate on the dressing or the sauces, right? So how rich is the sauce? What is the base of it? How acidic the sauce is? Or maybe is it herby or not herby? Or so it should not be overlooked. Do you have maybe like some general advices if the sauces, maybe we already talked about acidity, but also maybe herbs, because I think
Yeah.
some herbs are really defining.
Yeah. So let's picture this. We have 4 different chicken breasts. We're going to cook the chicken breasts in the same way. We're going to grill them, crispy skin, and we slice the chicken breast. So it's the same. And we do 4 different sauces for the same meat, just for fun. One of those sauces will be very, very fresh, like lime zest, and we'll have some cilantro, would be maybe even some kind of tzatziki, like a yogurt based, grated cucumber, mint. So then you have this kind of Greek vibe straight away. You have this tzatziki, this Greek vibe, nice acidity, very aromatic mint. What do you pair with that? So we have that. Then in the other side, we're gonna put this fruit sauce, which a lot of people like in winter and during Christmas, like this prune sauce, like a plum sauce, with cloves and sometimes anise. So very aromatic, but in the
Nutmeg.
clove section. So
Yeah.
we have another dish there. Then let's do one with cream and Parmesan cheese, these kind of luxurious, these four cheeses with blue cheese and Parmesan and cream, delicious, man. But let's do that, and then we do one with tomato and basil, and maybe let's put some bacon. Let's put some bacon. So it's this basil bacon deliciousness, tomato Italian. So we had the same meat, but we have completely different dishes by now. So we need to figure out which one goes better with tzatziki, which one goes better with plum jam, which one goes better with cream and four cheeses, and which one goes better with tomato Italian style. So now you can think that the most important question when you ask for what one should bring is not what meat you're cooking, is what sauce are you having. That's the most important question, because if I tell you I'm doing chicken, and you say, oh, chicken, sure, I'm bringing a burgundy, or I'm bringing a white chardonnay, or I'm bringing whatever, and then it's the plum one or the one with tomato and bacon, and then you are screwed because it doesn't work. But if you bring a Silvaner, or if you bring an Albarino, or if you bring an Assyrtiko, and it happens to be the tzatziki, then you're great. So the sauce is maybe the single most important feature of a main dish, if the wine has a sauce. So let's go. What would you pair, Mate, with the tzatziki one? With the one with yogurt, mint, grated cucumber, some garlic. What do you think? You can
Yeah,
pick any
maybe.
one. Don't break the bank, okay? Don't tell me Krug. Don't tell me whatever super expensive one. One that you and I could buy.
Maybe with some greener or high acidic wines, maybe some, I don't know, Verdejo, or maybe even Chenin Blanc, or yeah, Sauvignon Blanc, what we already mentioned, or maybe Chersegy Fuseresh would be sometimes also nice, or
It could be good. Could be good.
some
Yeah, of course.
light bodied, but with really some refreshing acidity, no oaky notes,
No
just
oaky note,
some,
exactly.
yeah,
White.
yeah.
That is a classic white wine dish. With rosé might work, but it's better with the white. And with red, definitely not work, because the yogurt texture.
Yeah.
Because you have a very special texture from yogurt, and that kind of texture with red wine is just disgusting. Like, to think about it, it's just disgusting. So don't go with that. So that is a classic white wine dish. Now let's go with the prune, with this kind of heavy, thick, almost black color prune sauce with some cloves and some anise, star anise. What would you
Yeah.
have with that?
Yeah, really with some bolder reds, maybe with some residual sugar, maybe. So I don't know, maybe even Amarone, or at least Ripasso, maybe some Zinfandel or Primitivo. I don't know, with something with some boldness, maybe Aglianico, maybe also would be nice, but it
Okay.
has too much tannin, maybe. But I don't know, you are the expert, but that's what comes to my mind.
That will be nice, and that will absolutely make this dish, which is not a fancy dish, because that is not a fancy dish. I mean, it's like a family reunion. You can even have it cold, because the sauce is usually served cold. I don't know if you had that before, but in Colombia it's very common. You have it every Christmas. This kind of prune sauce with cold meats. That I would have, for example, what I was mentioning with Brachetto d'Acqui or Lambrusco, something
Okay.
simple like that. Like, you don't need to fancy it up. It's gonna be delicious with a red wine or rosé that has some bubbles, some acidity, not too much acidity, and some residual sugar. So that would be super playful, easy, delicious. I mean, I wouldn't pair this with a big wine. So I won't pair this with Amarone. Amarone, I think, would be kind of heavy and will cover the flavor of the chicken,
Yeah,
which is
true.
very,
Yeah.
very gentle. So this is not the same wine. And then We have one which is this cream with 4 cheeses. Delicious, man. What a delicious dish. Not very healthy, but delicious. Excellent quality Parmesan cheese. Good enough, just balanced enough of blue cheese. And this creamy, cheesy, gooey, delicious dish. What would you pair with this fatty, creamy, salty, marvelous?
Yeah, I do. Either I would go for the harmonious one, which we already mentioned. So either I would go really this oaky kind of oaky Chardonnay, maybe only oaky, I don't know, Pinot Grigio or some kind of really like oaky, or maybe even some nutty direction. I would say maybe some Neuburger with some oak influence, or Vermentino, maybe some kind of heavier, maybe some with some phenolics, some kind of thicker white. But yeah, or maybe I would go, if red, what would you go with red?
I would definitely not choose a red for that. I think that is the most tricky because of the salt and the intensity. It's super intense. So when you think about Parmesan cheese, that stuff is intense. So you have a small teaspoon of Parmesan, you just eat it by itself, and that is just intensity, umami, salt. Blue cheese the same. It's so deliciously fatty, salty that I find it very tricky to pinpoint one wine. I find it very difficult, but I would go for something that is not extreme at all. So I would go white for sure, and I will take both extremes out. So I would take high acidity and low acidity. So I would take Riesling, Chenin Blanc, Sauvignon Blanc, because high acidity and cheeses will make the cheese feel that will make you feel that the cheese has gone bad. Unless it's goat cheese. When it's goat cheese, then you need when it's goat cheese, you need Sauvignon Blanc, man. I mean, there's no question that or Fourmint or something. But with this creamy salty cheese, like avoid high acidity, okay, and avoid fruity. You don't want fruity and salty. I mean, you don't want salt on your peaches. Like you don't want that. So I would take out these rose, violet, lavender wines like Viognier and Gewürztraminer. Maybe like no. So then I have this. So I had this, and then I have only this. So I could go with Italian if you want Italian, and then you can go Roero from Piedmont, or you can go something like that. Sparkling wine can be delicious, though. A sparkling wine with moderate acidity and more creaminess. So actually, this could work very well with that. By the way, or I would go for something without too much, with oak, but without too much oak. Not orange wines. So that's how. I mean, I don't know if I'm making any sense, but that's how my mind works. Like I'm trying to, I'm kind of crossing stuff out. This not, and then I'm left with only a few options. So even Oaky Albarino, I've had Oaky Albarino, or you can go with Italian for sure. What you said with what's this Mediterranean white? Vermentino. That could that'd be delicious.
Or maybe even Verdicchio manchmal. With this nutty green almond.
That is too. So for me, Verdicchio is like Sylvaner. It's super green and super kind of vegetable.
True.
So maybe a kind of like a Lisi G's this wine, and then I'm done. This wine would be good with it. But that is very tricky. That is actually a very tricky dish, even though it doesn't seem like a tricky one. But when you think about it, you need a wine with intensity, richness, not too much of anything. So it's a tricky one. But I would go for maybe the traditional method sparkling wine with a yeasty or a flavor, not too much acidity, no residual sugar, cava or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we have one more. We have one more.
Please.
We have the tomato base with bacon and with basil. Italian, classic, cliche Italian stuff.
Yeah,
What's your
I would really go into this Chianti style. So maybe like a higher acidity, not too bold red wine. Yeah, what you also mentioned. So, but maybe also maybe with Tempranillo, so kind of Rioja or Ribera del Duero. I think a Priorat would be too heavy with just tannins.
Mhm.
But maybe Mencia would be nice, I would say.
Delicious, man.
And
That would be
yeah,
delicious.
yeah,
I am
and also,
completely with you. I'm completely
mm,
with you. This is a red wine chicken.
mm.
It is a red wine motherfucker. So it's bacon, tomato. It is crispy skin. White wine here would be just weird. Like I don't know. Red wine, juicy red wine. I'm with you. Chianti Sangiovese, Montepulciano, you name it. Whatever
A
Italian
tin
grape.
salt,
Cinso,
yeah,
Garnacha. What about a
Garnacha,
good
yeah,
old Garnacha from wherever, from
yeah.
Spain or Côte d'Iron
Or
or
a Blaufränkisch would be nice as well. Or a cake
Blaufränkisch?
Francoche.
Kick Francois would be delicious, but I would go for something more earthy,
Yeah.
for like Italians or Grenache or Mencia. Mencia, oh, I love Mencia. Mencia is so good because
Me
it's similar
too.
to Kick Francois, and I like Kick Francois.
Or maybe this one. I'm actually drinking now a Cabernet from Killesberg from a T. Braumer. I think you would love that. It's a
Cabernet Franc
15.5. Yeah, Cabernet from 15.5 alcohol
from Roost.
from Roost, and it's
My God,
after 2 hours, it's like drinking chocolate. Really, it's like
is
my
it?
my shirt. If I don't know if you can see it in the camera,
Wow,
it's like it's like
it's
a curtain.
dark like your soul, man. It's dark, dark.
It's
It's
getting
like
there.
Amarone dark.
It's getting there. But man, thank you very much. I could actually talk to you, I think, for hours. But what do you say if we make a second part with the red
Let's do it.
wines? Because
Let's
I
do it
have,
for the wine. Yeah, let's do it.
yeah, because I haven't revealed my reds yet, but I think they will be interesting.
Let's do it. Sorry
And
for the lot of talking, but wine and food is always a fun topic.
exactly. So thanks for talking so much because I think I'm after the fourth class, so maybe the talking is passed on to you.
And I drink this. I completely finished this, so it's very very
Nice job.
very nice.
Do you have something else at home?
Spice. I wanted to bring you a Zenith from Chopron
Mm.
that we have in the shop. That is incredible. It has some skin contact, not too much, so it's not an orange wine, but it has a very kind of golden color. It
Mm.
has some oak, not too much. I'm crazy about that wine. It's so good, like nice texture, extremely food friendly, extremely
Mm-hmm.
food friendly. Like you that is the wine you need to bring to a party,
Mm.
to a dinner party. It will be very good. But next time I will bring the red because if we're discussing red stone.
Perfect. And I'm actually curious, what are you cooking maybe at Christmas? So if you have already something in your mind, maybe next time you could tell us.
So we are spending Christmas with this friend of ours, which
Okay.
is a couple. She's from Colombia and he's from Morocco. And my wife is Colombian. I am Colombian, Hungarian. So in Colombia, we have this thing called tamales or hallaca, which is basically a corn-based dough that is wrapped in plantain leaves and it's steam cooked and it's usually filled with different meats and we managed to get some Venezuelan style because in South America every country and every region has its own tamales. So for example, I'm from Bogota, from the capital. My wife is from Bucaramanga, which is another city, and
Mm.
the tamales that we have in Bogota is completely different from the one she has in her hometown. So we managed to find Venezuelan style, which is super Christmas food. So I think we're having that. Uh, and we are having maybe a salad, maybe like a potato salad, like what we call here in Hungary, like Russian salad or French salad. Some potato with some green peas, some carrots, and yeah, something maybe like a fresh salad next to it. So something very, very like laid down, nothing super fancy, not too much hours spent on the kitchen kind of feel. And I have my cava. I have a cava Brut Natur with 40 months, 40 months on the lease, and it was only 5,000 forints, which is like $15. And it's, I think it's great value. And probably either another sparkling or the white wine I just mentioned. Yeah, I'm not having 6 wines like you're having. Having maybe, yeah.
Yeah, but you know, when you mentioned it's already 5,000 forints, who did you have to kill for that, or how did you get the hands on?
I mean, I don't want to admit it, but Bortas Shack sells that cow.
And can you, so if you, because I think in Hungary there are some really traditional dishes. So if you eat, I don't know, fish or punch, or if you, there are some traditional Hungarian Christmas dishes, but
Holasle or
Holasle, exactly. But if you want to have some Venezuelan or South American dish, can you get it in Budapest or?
The dish, yeah, there are quite a bunch of Venezuelans living here in Budapest. So it's prepared by Venezuelans. So yeah, it's a traditional, of course, with the ingredients that they can get here, but yeah, it's prepared by this friend of ours who's Venezuelan, and she prepares these great tamales or hallacas, because it's called hallacas in Venezuela, but it's called tamales in Colombia. So the name is even the name is different, but it's almost the same.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Because I think also in this time, most of us like to drink wine, but maybe not all of us could cook something. So
yeah, I just buy it and bring the wines. That's how it goes. I mean, as a I don't work as a chef anymore, but I used to work as a chef, and I'm the kind of person that wants to cook the less at home. So I don't I understand that hobby cooks and hobby chefs, let's call them, they love to do this complicated stuff for they want to have these super long recipes with 1,000 steps, and just to do a complicated stuff. I want to do the opposite. Like if I can have omelets, I would I want to have the easiest dish that tastes the best. And with wines as well, I don't want to spend like crazy, but I want to have delicious stuff. And it's good that I work in a wine shop, and it's good that I know these 1 or 2 things like cava and things like that you can get a lot of value.
So can I just, after your advices, I just assembled somehow after this glasses of wine, maybe a little menu in my head. So I have this Brut Natur, so traditional method 2013, sparkling Blanc de Noir.
Blanc de Noir.
Yeah, so I would say it's for starters, maybe for 2 or 3 days. So it's not only on the first day. So maybe with some honeydew melon and prosciutto, I think that's a classic appetizer.
I won't have that.
Okay, why not?
Because Blanc de Noir is not usually a fruity style. It's more textured. And I think that if you want to have melon and prosciutto, you have it with Prosecco, or you have it with Franciacorta, but you don't have it with fancy 2013 Blanc de Noir. I mean, I won't have that. But it might taste, I would have the prosciutto, but I would put it on top of a toast with some warm camembert or some warm creamy cheese on top of the prosciutto, maybe some olive oil, and I'll have it like that. or maybe some warm. I will have like a warm cheese
Uh-huh.
with maybe that.
Like a raclette,
I think
you
that
mean?
not a raclette, but you put pieces of bread and then you put slices of camembert or slices
Okay.
of goat cheese, and then you put it in
Uh-huh.
the oven for 10 minutes or so
Uh-huh.
until it's warm and slightly melted.
Melted.
And
Uh-huh.
then you put some black pepper, the cheese, maybe some olive oil, and with the champagne, and you feel like a rock star.
Okay, thanks. It's already. I'm glad that I asked because
But
I also.
let's do your menu from
Yeah,
start to bottom next time. What do you say?
let's do it.
So people join us next time. So next time
Let's
we
do
are
it.
making Mate's holiday season menu. So join us, and I put some comments or thoughts about what Mate should be eating with his fancy wines.
Please, and I'm jumping to heaven probably after this. So thanks, because
Yeah, thank you.
that's the first Christmas my mother is not cooking. So I'm happy that I get some advice.
Some advice. Yeah,
Yeah, true.
no
Thanks,
worries.
Sebastian.
I'm here for you. Thank you, Mate, for this. It was great.
Thank you. Bye.